Embrace the Art of Change from Fear to Freedom Masterclass. I'm Pamela Thompson, President of Creative Life Coaching and Consulting, and I'm passionate about supporting business and professional women to embrace change, to thrive in life and business, and to make a positive difference in the world. In this transformational masterclass, you will learn why many of us fear change. You'll learn change is so important for success in both life and in business. And you'll learn a powerful and practical process for embracing any change, be it personal or professional. So why am I so passionate about this topic? Well, I've had the opportunity to live and work on 5 continents in the last 25 years. And what I've noticed is I've seen the negative impacts that resisting change have on people, on their bodies, on their minds, on their relationships, on their work practices, and ultimately on their organizations. So I'm now on a mission to share evidence related to change and also to give people tools and strategies so that they can better understand and more easily and effortlessly move through change with less stress and greater understanding. So why do we fear change? Well, basically we're hardwired to fear change. Our amygdala, a part of our brain, is constantly scanning our environments and looking for things that might be different, things that makes it feel uncomfortable. And when it perceives a change, it causes our body to send stress hormones throughout it, and it puts us into fight, flight, or freeze. Fight is we get really angry, and we're really angry at our partner who wants to leave us, or our boss who's taken us through yet another reorg. Whatever it is, we get angry, so fight comes up. Or we go into flight, and that's where we want to avoid talking or thinking or being in this situation at all costs. So flight. And freeze is when we're totally immobilized. When we can't move, we can't think, we can't make any rational decisions. So I'm sure all of you have been there, and it's not a very good place to be in both your personal or your professional life. So what happens when we resist change? Well, when we resist change, for one, it takes a lot of energy. You may recall a time when you were working at a job that you really, really had lost your passion for or never had any passion for. And you were dragging yourself out of bed each morning and trying to put on a happy, smiling face as if everything was great, when in your body you knew that it wasn't. And you wanted to leave that job. However, you didn't know how to do it because you had bills to pay and obligations. So you stayed. So again, when we resist changing, it really, really takes a lot of energy to stay in that place when our body's saying no, we should be moving on. The other thing that happens when we resist change is we often keep repeating the same patterns in our life again and again and again, and remaining unhappy and unfulfilled. An example would be someone who marries 3 or 4 times may in fact choose partners who look very similar to the previous one and keep repeating the same issues again and again and again, and either staying in the relationship and remaining unhappy and unfulfilled, or moving forward and finding yet another person and doing the same thing again and again and again. And this is because people don't take time between relationships to find out who they are and what they really want. And the other thing about resisting change is it creates a lot of stress in our bodies, and over time it leads to chronic health conditions and illnesses, things like burnout and adrenal fatigue. I've experienced this myself. Burnout or adrenal fatigue, autoimmune disorders such as fibromyalgia or MS, and even cancer. There's so much data to support the negative impacts that long-term stress have on our bodies. And this is something you want to avoid and prevent. And why is embracing change important for business success? And how are, one of the things about business is it's all about change. We launch a new product or service, we're targeting a specific group, and very few, if any, people buy. So we go back to the drawing boards, and maybe we change the program we're offering, or we change our target market, we re-niche. We write copy, it doesn't work. We split test it, we rewrite it again. So anyway, so business is all about change. And it's important when we're in business for ourselves or others, that we understand and embrace change and are open to it and don't feel like we're failures when things don't work, because that's what business is all about. And the other thing that happens is business and life are really intertwined. So it's very difficult if you're going through a separation or divorce, for example, to compartmentalize that part of your life, not take it to work. And so when we do take this stuff to work, and we can't hide it because it's in our bodies, it's in our mind, it's consuming us, it reduces our focus, it reduces our productivity. It ultimately, it has a lot of impacts on our relationships in the work setting, and ultimately it negative impacts our bottom line, or the bottom line of the organization we're working with. So there's a lot of linkages between business and life and success in both, and embracing change. And what I know to be true is when we learn proven tools and strategies to embrace change, it helps us move from fear and anxiety to clarity and confidence. I love this quote from a woman called Ariane de Beauvoisin. She wrote this book, The First 30 Days. And she says that change is like a muscle. Change is like a muscle. And the more that we use it, the stronger it becomes. Makes a lot of sense. So the more often we go through changes in our lives, the easier it becomes. For example, I've gone through so many changes in my career, in my work life, the places that I've moved, I've been divorced, and yes, so many things, many changes. I'm a mom, I'm a nana. However, other people that I know have lived in the same town all of their lives, married their childhood sweetheart, and may have worked for the same company for the last 20 years, for example. And this is not right or wrong, but chances are that person doesn't embrace change as easily as someone like me, who's been through it many times. I'm not saying that I don't have issues around it sometimes. None of us are perfect. However, it is interesting to reflect on your life and see, are you resilient? Have you been through a lot of changes, and have you come out the other end healthy and happy? So I have developed something called the Art of Change framework and process. And it's based on my work with people in organizations from around the world. And it's underpinned by the belief that embracing change is a creative process that opens us up to new possibilities. Think about that. Embracing change is a creative process that opens you up to new possibilities. Imagine if you lived your life thinking that. The other thing is that this Art of Change framework is based on the metaphor that life is a dance. Life is a dance. Change can be fun. It can be playful. It can be flowing. And I like evidence, and I like to ground practical tools in evidence. And this Art of Change framework and process is underpinned by evidence from neuroscience, Eastern psychology, and organizational development. So I'd like to take you a few minutes to walk you through this process. So the first step in the Art of Change process is shine the light. And this is when you explore how you respond to change and why. How you respond to change and why. So I invite you to just think for a moment about change. I'm in a change. And notice what emotions or what words come up for you. Just notice what words or emotions come up for you. It could be fear. It could be anxiety. It could be freedom. It could be adventure. It could be a number of things. Excitement. And nothing is right or wrong. It's just an opportunity to notice how you typically respond to change. Now I'd like you to invite you to write yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being, in terms of how you typically respond to change, 1 being scares me to death, 10 being I thrive on it. So rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being change scares me to death, and 10 being I thrive on it. Just notice the number that comes up. Don't think about it too much. Now, what's interesting about this process is if you're a 9 or a 10, then chances are you embrace change and you really find it exciting, and if you don't have it in your life, you want it. Whereas someone in your family, someone in your team at work, someone in your community, someone in, people in your circle, they might be a 4 or 5. So it's really important to know this, to do this this fun reading, because it lets you know how then you can support people, and gives you the opportunity to say before, when you're in a change, whether it be with a partner, with a family member, with your team at work, it's important to know where people are, and then ask them, what would they like, how would they like to be supported as they move through change. And as Brené Brown suggests, rumbling about it, providing opportunities throughout the change process to rumble about it, to share thoughts, to provide support. So shine the light. Explore how you respond to change and why. So step 2 in the art of change process is choose your dance. And that's when you identify the transition that you want to work on and where you are on what I call the transition journey. Now, William Bridge is an organizational theorist, makes a differentiation between change, a life change, and a transition. And I really like his definition, and I'll paraphrase it here. He says that a change is external and situational. So it's something very tangible that we can see. It could be a separation agreement. It could be a pink slip if you're getting laid off work. Whatever it is, it's external and situational. Whereas a transition is internal and psychological. It's the internal psychological work we do to reorient and readjust and redefine ourselves based on our new external reality. What happens is many people experience a change and jump on thinking it's done, and they don't take the time to process it, do the psychological work. So this process helps you to do that. So in Bridges' framework and his work, he also identifies that regardless of the change or transition that you're going through, whether it be a health challenge, a career change, a relationship change, you experience 3 distinct phases: an ending, a neutral zone, and a new beginning. So I'll just share a little bit about each of these. So an ending is obviously the end of something, right? And the neutral zone is the part between the ending and the new beginning. And this is when you become very indecisive and you're not sure what you want to do, or you second guess yourself. You maybe go back to the man that you left or the woman that you left because you're dating again, and you think, oh my goodness, there's a lot of jerks out there, maybe I should go back to the one I was with. I went back and forth. My ex-husband and I broke up and got back together 5 times before we eventually married. So this happens to us all. And then the 3rd phase is, the new beginning. Now there's work associated with each phase of this transition journey, and if we don't do the work, we keep repeating the same patterns in our lives. Hence people who end up, going after a job totally for the money, and after a short space of time, becoming bored or impatient or feeling just they have no passion around it because they haven't taken the time to find out what their passions are and also what their values are and how they might fit into an organization and the type of work that they might want to do. So anyway, so in this ending, the work is, that ending is letting go. So it's really important to let go of anger, let go of the thought, the status that you had, the identity that you had in a previous position or relationship. You need to let it go. And there's numerous ways to do that. The other thing that's really helpful is to identify lessons learned. If you were in a job and it didn't work for you, to identify what you liked about it, to identify what you didn't, and moving forward, think about, okay, was it fit or lack of fit? Was it my passions? And to really take some time to dig deep on this stuff. So the work of the ending is letting go and identifying lessons learned. The work of the neutral zone is to get clear and envision that life of your dreams, that partnership of your dreams, that career of your dreams, and feel it in your body. And the work of the new beginning is when you take action toward whatever you envisioned in that neutral zone. So, back again to step 2 in the Art of Change framework. So this is when you choose your dance. So you identify the transition you want to work on and where you are on the transition journey. And when you identify the transition, you only identify one at a time, because sometimes we're going through 2 at a time. You may be relocating, moving to a new city, and starting a new position, right? So it's really important in this process to only choose one to work on at a time. And to identify then where you are. Are you at the neutral zone? Are you at the ending? Are you at the new beginning? And I also would like to point out that this process is not definitely unidirectional. In other words, we don't smoothly move from the ending to the neutral zone to the new beginning. Oftentimes we go back and forth a few times. Ending, neutral zone, ending, neutral zone, ending, neutral zone, new beginning. So it's really helpful to situate yourself, to identify where you are in your transition journey and choose one transition to work on. So step 3 in the Art of Change framework and process is feel the rhythm and learn the steps. And this is when you begin doing the work associated with the phase of the transition journey that you're in, and you also commit to integrating and embracing change in your body. Now, this is key. We can logically think about stuff. However, there's a need to integrate and embrace it in our bodies. And I've studied mindfulness, and with my clients, what I find it helpful to do to help you really integrate this belief that embracing change is a creative process that opens us up to new possibilities, and also this idea of moving, getting out of our heads and into our bodies. The big thing that we have to do when we get out of our heads and into our bodies is helpful tools are things like body scanning. So I invite you on awakening in the morning, before you leap out of bed, if that's what you tend to do, to lie there and start scanning your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And just notice if you experience any pain or tension or discuss anywhere in your body. You just notice if there's any tension, any pain. And if you do notice that, then you set the intention to release it. So you breathe into it and you let it go. You breathe into it and you let it go. And it's a really good process to follow, because then you can sense if, where the tension lies, where you're holding it, and it might also be a clue that it's important for you to have a massage or get some work done from an alternative practitioner. So body scanning. The other tool that's really helpful to help us get out of our heads and into our bodies is mindfulness walking meditation. And this is where ideally you get out in nature, and what you do is, instead of thinking of that argument you had with your partner this morning, or the performance review you're going to give to your team member this afternoon, you instead experience all your senses. So you feel the wind on your cheek. You hear the birds singing. You feel, you hear the leaves underfoot. You smell the salty air, or you smell the lilacs if they're in season. And you experience the beautiful vistas that are close to you. And when you do this, notice what you notice. I invite you to try this. I tell my clients to start doing this 15 to 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week. So do this starting 3 times a week, 15 to 30 minutes a day. And notice what happens when you're doing it. Notice afterwards how you feel, and notice the cumulative impact of this. And when you do it in nature, you're getting an added bonus. Because the Japanese have done longitudinal studies to show that when we walk amongst trees, so in parks, in forests, it reduces our blood pressure, it reduces our heart rate, and increases the number of natural killer cells our body produces. So it strengthens our immune system. So doing mindfulness walking meditations in nature is really calming to your nervous system. So again, step 3, feel the rhythm and learn the steps. And that's when you commit to embracing change in your body, and you begin doing the work associated with the transition journey phase that you're in. Step 4 in the Art of Change framework is practice, practice, practice. Like anything, this is about habits and instilling these habits in our bodies. So this is where you continue doing the work that includes letting go, identifying lessons learned, getting clear, developing, having a vision board, speaking to it, looking at it every morning and before retiring, and saying, I'm so happy and grateful, I'm living a life that includes this and so, and then at the end saying this and more. I love what Mary Morrissey says in her Dream Builder program related to this. So vision boards. And then taking action. This is when you have an action plan, you take action toward your vision. You don't sort of sit and wait for something to happen. Although sometimes things do come in, opportunities do present themselves that you never envisioned. And it's important to be open. And so in this stage, this in-between stage, this neutral zone, when you may be indecisive, this is the time for creativity. This is the time to be open to new opportunities, not totally be so fixed on your vision that you're not open to new people and opportunities coming into your life. So anyway, step 4, practice, practice, practice. And you also then commit to viewing change as a creative process that opens you up to new possibilities. And the important thing about beliefs is that we hold them in our bodies. You may have heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton and his work, which he talks about in The Biology of Belief. Now, he's a stem cell biologist from training and background. And initially, he was doing work, and he identified that we actually store our beliefs in our cells, which is huge, because we can store positive ones or negative ones. So if you have negative beliefs about change, you can change them up to positive ones. And obviously, it's way better if we have more positive beliefs in our body than negative ones. The other thing that's really important is in our thoughts. And Norman Deutsch, and he's written a book, which I'm just blocking on the name of right now, the Brain That Changes Itself, Norman Deutsch. And what he found, and then there's been accumulated evidence since, is that we have the power in our thoughts to change the physiology of our brains. Think about that. We have the power in our thoughts to change the physiology of our brains. We can create new neural pathways with our thoughts. So if we think that change is a creative process that opens us up to new possibilities, and that change is a dance, it's going to create new neural pathways in our brains. Okay then, so the 5th step in the process is in the Art of Change framework is consciously share your dance with the world. Now, this is when you observe how people around you are reacting or responding to you. When you're adapting, you've adapted and you're using these new tools to embrace change. So you notice how you're impacting your family, your friends, your work-related colleagues, and your communities. And we're like stones being thrown into a pond. We create ripples, and we actually are the change that the Dalai Lama said, be the change. Now, what I'd like to do, so I'd like to review one more time the 5 steps in the Art of Change framework. And I encourage you to try them out. So the first one is shine the light. Explore how you respond to change and why. The second one is choose your dance. Identify the transition you want to work on and where you are on your transition journey. 3 is feel the rhythm and learn the steps. And that's when you begin doing the work associated with the phase of the transition journey you're on. And you also begin to integrate and embrace change in your body. The 4th step is practice, practice, practice. And that's when you continue doing the work associated with the phase of the transition journey that you're in. And you also commit to embracing that change and commit to that belief that embracing change is a creative process that opens you up to new possibilities. And finally, step 5 of the Art of Change framework is consciously share your dance with the world when you notice the positive impact you're having in all the circles that you circulate in. So what I find really helpful to try to integrate this work into your body is to think of a dance you love to do or a dance you love to watch. So I invite you to play with me for a minute here. So stand up and close your eyes and imagine that dance you love to do or that dance you love to watch. Groove to it. Get into it. You may be noticing some music coming up in the background. Now I invite you to notice how you feel. How do you feel doing that dance or watching that dance? How do you feel? What words or feelings are coming up for you? Now I invite you to come back in the room and open your eyes. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'd like you to notice what words or feelings came up for you. Perhaps it was playfulness, freedom, adventure, flow, whatever it was. Notice, perhaps write it down and feel it in your body. What I encourage you to do is either draw a picture of yourself doing that dance, find it on the internet and cut it out, ideally, print it and cut it out, and or find it in a magazine, something that inspires you and reminds you of your dance, and put that picture someplace that you look at it in the morning and at night, and imagine doing that dance. Imagine embracing change and flowing through life with less stress, moving from fear and anxiety to freedom. So, I'm Pamela Thompson from Pamela-Thompson.com. And remember, embrace the art of change and make a positive difference in the world.